All right, ready to dive deep. Today, it's Warren Buffett,
Oh, wow. The Oracle of Omaha.
the one and only. And we've got excerpts from his Forbes profile, all fresh from today, December 7th, 2024.
I bet there's some fascinating stuff in there.
Definitely thought-provoking stuff. For starters, he's currently the sixth richest person on the planet.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, real-time net worth, a cool $146.7 billion.
That's not just money. That's like an empire built on being a financial genius.
Exactly. And to think he bought his first stock when he was just 11.
11. No way.
I was busy trying to figure out which candy bar to buy.
Seriously. That's hilarious. I was all about baseball cards at that age.
But Buffett, already thinking like an investor.
It's kind of wild when you think about it like that. I guess that's part of why they call him the Oracle.
Right, seeing those market trends early on.
It's not just predictions, though. It's how he built Berkshire Hathaway.
Oh yeah, that massive company. Owning
Yeah.
everything from like Geico Insurance.
To Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
It's crazy the range of businesses they're involved in.
It's not just stock picking. It's about the long game, understanding what makes a business truly valuable.
In that long-term thinking, it even applies to his philanthropy.
Right. That pledge to give away like 99% of his wealth.
That's not just a donation, that's a statement.
Totally. $60 billion already donated, mostly through the Gates Foundation.
And his children's foundations, too. Plus, you've got the Giving Pledge,
Oh yeah, the one he started with Bill Gates.
encouraging other billionaires to give at least half their fortunes away.
So we've got this financial mastermind who's also incredibly generous. What's the bigger picture here?
It definitely says something about his values.
Right. Using wealth to make a difference.
Hmm.
But let's shift gears and talk about something that's been in the news lately.
Ooh, what's that?
Buffett's latest investment moves. These Forbes articles, they highlight some pretty significant changes in his strategy.
Is he shaking things up? I'm curious.
He's been selling off a lot of stock
Whoa, really? That's surprising.
and building up a huge cash reserve.
Huh. That's interesting. I thought he was all about buy and hold.
He is, or at least he's known for it, picking solid companies and sticking with them.
So to see him pulling back like this, is that a sign of something?
That's what everyone's wondering. Is he seeing something we don't?
Is the market headed for a downturn, or is he playing some kind of long game?
Hard to say for sure, but he's also been trimming his Apple stock.
Apple. That was one of his biggest holdings.
Yep. But then, get this. He invested in Domino's Pizza.
Domino's. That seems a bit out of character, I guess.
You'd think he'd stick to less volatile industries.
Definitely makes you think. Is he reading the market differently?
Maybe he sees opportunity where others see risk. Makes following him so fascinating.
He's like a master chess player, always thinking several moves ahead.
And speaking of interesting moves, let's not forget his lifestyle. The guy could buy anything he wants.
But he's famously frugal, isn't he?
Oh, totally. Still lives in the same Omaha house he bought back in 1958
1958.
for $31,500. Can you imagine a guy with that kind of wealth?
Choosing to live in a relatively modest house. That's pretty remarkable.
It's like he's grounded. Priorities are different, not about fancy cars and mansions.
More about building something lasting, whether it's businesses or making a difference through his philanthropy.
Do you think that modest lifestyle is somehow connected to his investment philosophy?
That's an interesting thought. Maybe it's about understanding the true meaning of value.
Right. That real wealth isn't just about money, it's about something deeper.
Exactly. Maybe that's why he's so successful. He sees things differently.
He gets that the biggest returns don't always have a dollar sign attached to them.
And speaking of returns, one of my favorite Buffett quotes is, "The stock market is a mechanism for transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient."
That's a classic. But what does it actually mean for how he invests?
Think about his buy and hold strategy. It's about resisting the urge to react to every little market wiggle.
So not about chasing quick profits or trying to time the market perfectly.
Exactly. It's about believing in the companies he chooses, trusting that value will grow over time.
He's playing the long game, like planting a tree and knowing it'll take years to see the shade.
That's a great analogy. Not about instant gratification, it's about a vision for the future.
It's inspiring, but also makes me think about my own financial decisions.
Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in the short term.
Do I have that kind of patience? That long-term perspective?
It's a good question for all of us. In a world obsessed with instant everything, maybe that's the most valuable lesson from Warren Buffett.
The power of patience.
The power of patience.
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in all the success, but
Ah,
nobody gets to that level without facing some criticism along the way.
that's true. Even Buffett with his Oracle status.
He's had his fair share of pushback.
So what are some of the main critiques people have?
Well, one that comes up a lot is the whole issue of privilege.
Ah, yeah, makes sense.
Advantages that most people don't have.
Being the son of a congressman, having access to financial markets early on.
Exactly,
There you
that
go.
kind of stuff. Critics say it gave him a huge head start.
So how much of his success is talent versus just being in the right place at the right time?
The classic nature versus nurture debate.
Right. It's tough to separate those completely.
It's definitely fair to say he's had a smoother path than most.
What other criticisms are out there?
Another one focuses on the sheer size and power of Berkshire Hathaway.
Okay, yeah.
Some argue that all those holdings, that concentrated investment, it can stifle competition.
Limit choices for consumers, too.
Right. Like, are some companies too big to fail?
Yeah.
Too much influence?
The worry being that a company like Berkshire Hathaway could manipulate markets or something?
Or use its influence to squeeze out smaller competitors?
Are there any examples of that happening, or is it more of a theoretical concern?
There have been instances where Berkshire's investments have been scrutinized.
Really?
Yeah, some people argue their ownership of multiple companies in a single industry could lead to, unfair advantages.
It's tricky, right? You've got the benefits of a company with Berkshire's resources and expertise.
But on the other hand, there's potential for that power to be misused.
So a balancing act.
Definitely something regulators are keeping an eye on.
Okay, so we've got the privilege critique and the concern about too much power.
What else? Let me think.
Anything else?
Ooh. Another interesting point is about the ethics of some of his investments.
Oh, right. I heard about that.
He's big on socially responsible investing. But some people point out that Berkshire Hathaway's portfolio includes companies in, let's say, less than ideal industries.
Fossil fuels, certain food companies, that kind of thing.
Exactly. The kind of companies that have been criticized for their environmental or social impacts.
So how does that square with his values?
That's the question some critics are asking.
It's tough aligning your financial decisions with your ethical beliefs perfectly.
Especially with a portfolio as diverse as Berkshire's.
It's a gray area for sure. Are there
Yeah.
any other big controversies or scandals?
Well, Buffett's maintained a pretty positive reputation overall.
Okay.
But there have been a few situations that raised eyebrows.
Can you give us an example?
One that comes to mind is that scandal at Salomon Brothers.
Ah, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
They were an investment bank that Berkshire had a big stake in back in the 90s.
Right.
It involved some illegal trading practices.
Wow.
Buffett wasn't directly involved, but
Well,
his handling of the situation, as chairman at the time, it drew some criticism.
a reminder that even the Oracle isn't perfect,
Even he has to deal with the complexities of the financial world.
and how he responds to those challenges, that's important too.
What was his approach to these controversies? Did they hurt his reputation?
Yeah, good questions. What happened?
Well, there were definitely some negative headlines,
Sure.
but Buffett's been pretty good at weathering those storms.
How so?
Part of it's his track record, but also his communication style.
Okay.
He's transparent, takes responsibility when needed, and seems to learn from his mistakes.
So it's not just about being good at what you do, it's how you handle the rough patches.
Exactly. And Buffett's good at that. That's part of why he's still so respected.
We've seen the good and the bad, the achievements and the critiques. What's the big takeaway for our listeners? How should we view Warren Buffett after all this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that he's complex.
Not just a hero or a villain.
Yeah, a human being who's achieved a lot, but also benefited from privilege and made some decisions that haven't been universally applauded.
It's easy to forget that even iconic figures are multifaceted.
Exactly. That's what makes him so interesting. He's not this one-dimensional oracle.
He's a real person with flaws and strengths, successes and setbacks.
And his story, it has valuable lessons for all of us, whether we agree with all his choices or not.
It's a story about ambition, about navigating complex systems, about the challenges of power.
About the importance of learning and adapting.
We've explored his early days, his investment strategies, his philanthropy, even the controversies.
But there's one crucial piece missing, I think.
Oh, what's that?
His lasting impact. What legacy will Warren Buffett leave behind?
That's a great point. We've got to talk about the bigger picture.
Yeah, let's shift our focus and examine the impact he's had.
On finance, philanthropy, all of it.
Sounds good to me.
Where should we start? So we've covered a lot of ground with Warren Buffett, from his first stock at 11 to becoming, well, a financial icon.
And we've dug into his strategies, his philanthropy, the good, the bad, the whole picture.
But now, the big question, what's his impact been? What kind of legacy is he building?
It's a huge question. I mean, it goes way beyond the billions he's made.
Definitely. His influence on finance, that's undeniable.
For sure. So many investors have tried to copy him.
Studying his every move like it's some kind of, secret code.
There's a reason for that, you know. His whole approach to value investing.
Patience, long-term thinking.
He's changed how people view the market.
It's not about getting rich quick. It's about understanding the real worth of a business.
Absolutely. And he's a big advocate for financial literacy, too.
Oh, yeah. Making sure everyone has the tools to make smart decisions.
Not just Wall Street, but everyday people.
He's made investing less mysterious, more accessible.
And then there's his philanthropy.
Yeah.
I mean, to give away 99% of your wealth.
That's on another level. It's inspired a whole wave of giving.
That giving pledge, it's really shifted the conversation about wealth and responsibility.
And his impact, it goes beyond just money. He's become this, cultural figure.
Voice of reason.
People love quoting him.
His insights on business, on life.
There's something about the way he talks. So straightforward, it just clicks.
It's refreshing.
He cuts through all the noise and gets to the point.
So valuable in a world that's just overloaded with information.
Okay. Looking back on it all, what are the big takeaways? What can we learn from him?
Well, for me, it's the power of patience. That slow and steady approach.
Whether it's investing, building a business, or just life in general.
Like the tortoise and the hare.
Right.
He just keeps going, focused on the long game.
And ultimately, he wins.
Exactly. And that focus on value, looking beyond the surface.
Understanding what's truly worthwhile.
You can apply that to so many things.
Think about how often we get caught up in trends or what's popular.
Instead of thinking about what truly matters, what has lasting value?
It's easy to fall into that trap.
Buffett reminds us to slow down, do our research, make choices based on substance.
And let's not forget about giving back. Success and generosity, they can go hand in hand.
It's a powerful message.
Whether it's time, money, just helping out, we can all make a difference.
Absolutely.
And one more thing, I think his story shows the power of always learning.
He's always reading, absorbing information, expanding his knowledge.
So inspiring in a world that's constantly changing.
We can't afford to stop learning, to get stuck in our ways.
And his focus. He's so disciplined with his time and attention.
Cutting through distractions, zeroing in on what's important.
That's a skill we could all use more of.
For sure. So patience, value-driven decisions, generosity, lifelong learning, focus.
The Warren Buffett toolkit, and we can all try to use it.
It's been a great deep dive.
I feel like I've learned a lot.
Me too. It's inspiring.
Maybe someday we'll be sharing our own deep dives, following in his footsteps.
Now, that would be something.
But for now, let's leave our listener with this. What's the one thing you'll take away from Warren Buffett's story? What will you do differently? What will you build? Keep thinking about it. Until next time, happy diving.